Hello, welcome back to Reads of an Apple. My name is Stacy, and today I'm going to go over my anticipated romance releases through quarter 4, so the final quarter of 2022. So we will be covering October, November, and December. Now this will mostly just be me reading out lists of things to you. I will put the graphics that I made up here so you can see the date up in a picture of the cover if it is posted yet, and all the normal information. I will also list them all out down below with, as of today, the day that I'm filming this, the release date. Now, obviously, I have no sway over when these books are going to be released, and all dates are subject to change, as well as covers, and you get it. You probably already all know this. So I am just going to get right in it. So starting with October. Now, I'm not sure what day this is going to be. I put it on the 1st, but Alessa Thorn had posted that Luna Cursed, the 4th book in her Ironwood series, which is a spinoff of her Fae series. This was supposed to be up the first weekend in October, so the 1st or the 2nd. She tends to kind of post things live though, so it might already be up when you're watching this, if you're watching this early. Then on October 3rd is supposed to be The Taste of You by Ashley Mack. This is the 2nd book in her Senses series. I actually just read the 1st book. I gave it 4 stars. I really enjoyed it. It was her debut book, and I'm very intrigued to see where this one goes. I think this one has to deal with stalking, and this is the sister that's like a computer genius and may or may not be like a serial killer or a psychopath or something like that. So I'm very excited for that. And I'm assuming both of those 2 books will be on KU, since most of the other books already are on KU by those authors. Then on October 4th, we have quite a few books coming out. First off, I'm going to mention is the Evil Queen Anthology. Now there are, I think, 20 plus authors in this. Maybe it's just 10 plus. But I put this on my radar when Candy Steiner put in her newsletter like a sneak peek of her story that's going to be in this. And it is like Below Deck inspired. Now, it's called Evil Queens, but from my understanding, just kind of the blurb about what the anthology is hoping to do, it's going to be more like Boss Bee, or the more just like less emotional, or queen type of character, female characters. And so they're not going to be like sweet and lovey and that kind of a thing. They're going to be more of the badass bitches. But I'm very excited, at the very least, for Candy's short story, because I am obsessed with Below Deck. Okay, and then also what is coming next on October 4th is When Life Gives You Vampires by Gloria Duke. I don't know if this is the beginning of a series or not, but this is a curvy heroine. She's mid-20s, and she wakes up after a night of necking to find out that she is a vampire. So I'm very excited. And then I guess the hero accidentally turned her, and that's not allowed, so then they kind of have to figure out their situation. And then I also recently saw on Instagram A Cat Cafe Christmas by Cody Gary. That's all I needed to put it on my want to read list. I am a cat person, if you could not hear my kitty just hollering. And I mean, cat Christmas. My favorite Hallmark movie is The 9 Lives of Christmas, and I am very excited to read this when I get in like the Christmas reading spirit. And then the final book I have for October 4th is Hallows End. This is by Kristen Proby. She's an author that's kind of been on my radar for a little bit, but I don't think I've read any of her books, or I might have only like read one. But this is the first book in her Curse of the Blood Moon series. If I remember correctly, it's kind of witchy, but more fantasy than paranormal. But it's been a little while since I really looked at it. I tried to, when I put together my new releases, I check usually once a month to see what new releases have been posted for what other months are coming up in the future. And if it sounds interesting, then I'll just write it down and add it to my list. And so I try not to go back because I like to kind of go into books sometimes blind when it's a new author or something new for me like this. I either want to go in completely blind or I want like 100% spoilers, like I listen to like a full run podcast or a full review or something like that. So I'm all over the place, or I guess I'm on both extremes. I will move on though. So October 11th is the release of Lore Olympus Volume 3. And I do have both covers here because if you did not know, Barnes & Noble usually has a hardcover special edition that has a different cover. And for the first 2 volumes, I bought the paperback in the normal and the hardback in the special edition because I love Lore Olympus and I want all of the art. So I do also have both of these pre-ordered. And then October 14th, which is probably one of my biggest anticipated releases of the month, is Heartless by Elsie Silver. This is the second book in her Chestnut Spring series, which is a spin-off of her Gold Rush Ranch series. And this is Cade's book. And this is single parent, single dad, nanny romance. And I'm not the biggest fan of nanny romances, but I'm also not the biggest fan of enemies to lovers, and Elsie likes to write that a lot, and she's one of my favorite contemporary authors, so I'll read anything she'll write at this point. Alright, and then on October 16th, Blood Orange is coming out by Karina Halle. Now this is associated or a slight spin-off to her other paranormal series, but I did see that you can read this as a standalone, and this is a retelling of Dracula. So now that we're getting into like the spooky fall months, I definitely will be leaning towards a lot more paranormal. And I'm a big fan of Dracula, so I'm excited to see what she does with this. On the 18th, we have The Duke Alone by Christy Caldwell. This seemed to me like a Christmas story, but it might just be winter, and they basically are both left to their own devices and their next door neighbors. However, usually when you hear this trope, especially with historical like winter or holiday based romances like this, they're stuck in the country, but this time her family leaves her and heads to the country and she gets stuck in town. So I like that that's a little bit different. And now that I'm thinking about this might be like a Home Alone spoof because it's the Duke Alone. Wait a second. Okay, it may or may not be a Home Alone inspired spoof. Whatever. Okay, I'm intrigued. I'm definitely a lot more intrigued now. And then also on the 18th is Samantha Young's A Cosmic Kind of Love. Now, I have not read Samantha Young. I have heard like either her books are hit or miss for a lot of other readers whose opinions I trust a lot. But this one just got me because the hero is a astronaut and then the heroine, I think, is like an event planner or something. So, I mean, give me astronaut science books and I am here for them. Okay, and then my final little grouping for October. On the 20th, we have The King of Wrath. This is the first book in Anna Huang's Kings of Sin. And this hero was in her Twisted series. So if you've read those, then you know who this guy is. And she already has kind of posted, it sounds like these are all going to be like the 7 sins kind of a theme. October 24th, Arkana by Runyx is supposed to be out, and I did mention this in my quarter 3 releases. This was originally supposed to come out in September, but it was pushed back. She pushed it back to October 3rd, and then she had issues with Amazon and some false plagiarizing claims or something like that. So Amazon has pushed the release date to October 24th, but she did assure everybody it will be out October 24th. But I'm excited. This is the prequel to Gothikana. I think it's Gothikana. And I read that last year and really enjoyed it. So I'm excited to see this. If I remember correctly, this is set during like the 1800s. So it's like definitely very historical compared to where Gothikana was. On October 25th, there is an anthology, and so this is part of a Midnight Requiem, and this one is The Ghostly Hour. This is a historical romance anthology, and this came on my radar because Elisa Braden has a novella that's going to be in this, so I cannot wait. I have it pre-ordered. When I pre-ordered it, it was up for a 99-cent pre-order with it like going up to $5 once it's released. So if you're interested and want to get the pre-order cheaper price, definitely check it out. And then also on the 25th, we have Jackie Lau's The Stand-Up Groomsman. This is the follow-up book to Do Not Fall in Love, which was her first traditionally published book, which I absolutely adored. 4.5 stars. So I'm very excited for The Stand-Up Groomsman. I am slightly nervous because he was the one character that kind of rubbed me a little wrong in Do Not Fall in Love, but it's more because I wanted to focus on our 2 main characters in that book, and when he kind of came into the picture, the focus kind of turned to him. But I'm definitely intrigued, and it is him and the roommate of the heroine from the first book. And she has been a huge fan of him. He is an author, he is an actor and comedian, and she was a huge fan of his. And then when they meet, he says some pretty disparaging things, rubs her completely the wrong way. And so she basically is like both sad and incredibly angry with him because her childhood hero has now been completely tarnished. But I'm excited. And then final day in October 31st, Resting Witch Face, which is Stay a Spell, book number 5 is out by Juliet Cross. This is Jules' book, and I cannot wait. I'm excited to go back to another vampire hero. Oh, and they've been kind of simmering in the previous books, so I'm excited. And I am a member of Julia Cross's Patreon, as well as her and Jessen's podcast, Smart One Read Romance. I'm a Patreon there, and some of the sneak peeks that I've been getting, I cannot wait. And then another random find that I found on one of the Listopia lists. She's a Mad Hatter. This is by S.J. Ransom. Never heard of this author before. This seems kind of like a Wonderland retelling where the female is the Mad Hatter, but she is a serial killer, and it's her romance with like the deputy or the sheriff or someone in the police force. And I'm very excited for it. And it's fun to find a new random author that has an interesting premise and pick them up. So that is it for October. Let's move on to November. Now, to start out with November, as you can tell, I have a couple TBDs. So according to Victoria Abelin's newsletter that went out recently, fall is when we're supposed to get Resisting Maxu, which is the 6th book in her Cleclanian series. It's probably my favorite alien romance series. I am obsessed with her. I am obsessed with Cleclanians. And I was looking on her website, and she hasn't teased it in her newsletter, but her website has like a red, kind of similar-ish style cover that says Cleclanian 7 coming soon, and then underneath it says spring 2023. And the red makes me think it's the alien that's in the council with the main city that looks kind of like a devil, but is like a huge cinnamon roll, which I really hope it's him. But it could not be. But I'm very excited for this. But she has just said fall. So I stuck it in November because I wasn't sure. Also, coming in November, Zoe Draven did announce it will be coming in November, but we don't have a cover, as you can see. But this will be the first book in her Brides of the Kylor series. And she posted like a little montage of inspiration pics that she had on her Pinterest. I am very, very excited for this. This alien species has horns. Kind of gives me dark fae vibes. But like alien. I don't know. Whenever it comes out, I will be reading it. I love Zoe Draven. 2 alien romances coming fall in November that I'm very highly anticipating. Okay. November 1st, we have the historical romance anthology Duke in a Box. This is 12 authors, and it seems like they're going kind of with the same theme of 12 days of Christmas. So I might just wait until there's like 12 days until Christmas, or do the first 12 days of December or something, and read like one a night or something like that. But we will see. I'm very excited to at least get this on my Kindle though, November 1st. Also coming out on the 1st is Savor Me. This is the Census 2.5 novella by Ashley Mack. So I'm very excited to follow that up after reading the book that comes out in October, The Taste of You. And then also coming out on October 1st is Kiss Me, Catalina. This is by Priscilla of Oliveris. And I've seen her books around. I have not read her books. But this is a mariachi take on Kiss Me, Kate, which if you do not know Kiss Me, Kate, it is an old style musical, which is based on Shakespeare's The Taming of the Shrew. So inspired, or adaptation. So I don't know. I'm just very excited. I actually just watched Kiss Me, Kate last month or the month before because it'd been a while since I saw it. And I had one of the songs randomly pop into my head. So I'm very excited for this. And I'm really intrigued by the like mariachi band take instead of them being actors like doing a play. And then on November 3rd, we should see A Kingdom of Blood and Betrayal. This is the 2nd book in Holly Renee's Stars and Shadows series. This is a fantasy romance. I am a big fan of Holly Renee's contemporary romances. And when she announced that she was starting a fantasy series, I was very excited to see what kind of she would do with it. And I have not read the 1st book yet, but I will be reading it before the 2nd book comes out in November. I have it checked out on KU. I just have not picked it up yet. Okay, moving on. November 8th, we have quite a few releases. So we have the start of Christina Britton's new series, Sinful Spinsters. And the 1st book is Some Dukes Have All the Luck. I have read the other Sinful series by Christina Britton and enjoyed them. She is a newer historical romance author, and I'm excited to see where she takes this new series. Plus, I'm a big fan of like spinsters, so I'm here for it. Then we have Fallen Empire, number 3 by Grace Draven. This is Raven Unveiled. I love Grace Draven. And I will read anything that she writes. So that's all I needed to know. We also have Emily Howard's The Duke in Question. This is the third book in her Daring Duke series. I love Emily Howard. I will read any historical romance that she writes. And then we have the Princess and the Player. I always want to add a the first, but there's not a the in the beginning. And this is Strangers in Love #2 by Ilsa Madden Mills. And then we also have Better Than Fiction, which is by Alexa Martin. She has a very popular football series, which I have not read, but I know she lives in Denver and I'm in Colorado. And so, I know her husband was a former football player, and I always wondered if her husband was a former Broncos player, but I never really put the effort in to figure out who her husband was. But this is something, either it's set in the bookstore and they meet in a bookstore or something, and the way that the bookstore was described made me think of the Tattered Cover, which is a really famous bookstore that's in downtown Denver, which I've only been to a couple of times because I don't go to Denver very often, but it gave me that sort of vibes, so I'm definitely intrigued about it. Okay, November 9th, The Sirens Mutiny. This is by Jessica S. Taylor. This is a fantasy. I'm going to go with fantasy because it's mermaids and pirates. And I think it's a dark fantasy romance, but I was definitely very intrigued by the cover and the little bit of information I read on it. On the 15th, we have the third book in Olivia Dade's Spoiler Alert series, which is Shipwrecked. And these guys are filming the same TV show that the first two characters were in the first two books, but they're like separated on a different island or something like that. I didn't really look too much into it because I didn't want to be spoiled, but I did pre-order this from Love Sweet Arrow, which is a romance-only bookstore in the Midwest, because there's supposed to be a special bonus artwork or dust cover or something that has like a classic bodice ripper art of this cover. And I saw like a teaser of part of it and it looked gorgeous. So I canceled my pre-order with my normal person and pre-ordered it from them because you had to pre-order it from them to get the special limited artwork. And then also on the 15th is The Trial of the Sun Queen by Nisha J. Tooley. This is the first book in her fantasy series Artifacts of the Renos. And this, I think, this doesn't go on to KU until early December. So it will eventually go to KU. But she is a newer fantasy author I recently found, and I have not read her first book in her other series yet, but I remember when she was kind of teasing this one in her newsletter, I was like, ooh, that sounds interesting too. So I definitely want to be checking more out of her books. And then for the rest of November, we are almost through here. On the 22nd is The Reign of Clans and Gods by Ashley Murdallo. And this is a fantasy romance where there's like 4 clans and they kind of have to be brought together, but they all have like different elements or different themes, or I don't know. There's some sort of magic involved. I didn't look too much into it. I was just like, oh, it sounds interesting enough. I'll add it to my list. As you can tell, is a thing that I do. And then on the 29th, we have Eloisa James, The Reluctant Countess. This is the second book in her Would-Be Wallflowers series. So I'm very excited for this. Another random book I found that also comes out that day is Griffin Undone by Ella Sheridan. This is the first book in her Archive Warriors. And the little blurb I saw for this is this book features a griffin shifter, and the series is supposed to be based on shifters, but their animal side is all mythological creatures. And that's all I needed to know. And then also on the 29th is J.R. Ward's book Forever, and this is the second book in her Lair of the Wolven. I'm not caught up in Black Dagger Brotherhood, but I was very intrigued by this series because I want to see how she goes with like shifters. So I bought the first book. I have not read it yet, but the second book comes out in November, so hopefully I will get that read by then. Okay, then we have December. I don't have too much for December. As you can tell, a lot of the authors that I really follow for anticipated releases are indie authors, and they usually don't release till closer to release date, and so it's still a little early for a lot of December books. But I'd at least throw out there what I have. Now, December 1st, we are supposed to be getting The Broker's Possession. Let me zoom in here. By Annabelle Rex. This is technically book number 2 in her Universal Protectorate series. And I've read book 1, but there are a couple novellas, or at least one novella in the series as well, but I don't quite know where they fit in. But I've read the first like full-length book, so I'm definitely intrigued to get back to more of her alien romances. And then on the 3rd, we have Sweep of the Heart by Ilona Andrews. This is the 5th book in the Innkeeper Chronicles. If you follow Ilona Andrews, this is the book that they are just now beginning to wrap up on their blog, which they will eventually take all the chapters down and then before the book is released. I will not be reading this though right away because starting in 2023, the girls who did the Kate Daniels and the Hidden Legacy read-along are going to be doing the Innkeeper Chronicles, and we will be starting that in, I think, January or February of 2023. So it won't be till like May, maybe earlier, maybe later, that I read this book, but any new release by Ilona Andrews deserves to be shouted out, in my opinion. Then on December 6th, we've got What You Gonna Do by Avery Flynn. This is the first book in her Witchington series. I don't remember too much about this outside of it being witchy, but if I remember correctly, he's like a scholarly wizard, and she needs help from him. And she doesn't have, like, she's from a magical family, but she doesn't have much magic herself. Although I could be getting that mixed up with a lot of other, like, traditionally published witch books that have come out in the last year or so. And then on December 6th, we have Anastasia by Sophie Lark. This is a fantasy retelling of Anastasia. I love Sophie Lark. My full name is Anastasia, so I'm very intrigued to see where she takes this. And then also on December 6th, we will be getting The Sound of You by Ashley Mack. This is the 3rd book in her Census series. And this is for, if I remember correctly, it is the other, so there's 2 sisters left. There's the eldest one who was supposed to be getting married in the first book, but didn't. And then there's the, like, sweet sister, and I think this is supposed to be the sweet sister. I just glanced at it enough to see the name of who it was, but I don't think there's a full blurb out for it either. Then on December 24th, Christmas Eve, we're supposed to be getting Drama King, which is the 2nd book in Penny Reid's 3 Kings series. And this series is all about 3 different kings that have returned to their hometown for the holidays. Then on the 27th, we have The Heretic Royal by G.A. Aiken. This is the 3rd book in her Scarred Earth Saga series. I cannot wait. I need to still read the first 2 books in this series, but I know it is a spin-off or set in the future of her Dragonkin series, which is one of my favorite dragon series, paranormal series of all time. I love G.A. Aiken. She also writes as Shelley Lorenstein. I need to pick these up because these are fantasy romance, and I don't know why I haven't read them yet, but these are like my save for rainy days, save for when I really need them books. So I have not read them yet, but I'm very excited for it. Plus, I think these covers are gorgeous. Then we have Kate Bateman's A Wicked Game, which is the third book in her Ruthless Rivals series. I read the second book earlier this year for Rake Appreciation Society, so I definitely need to go back and read the first book, and then I can read this one. And I'm very intrigued by this one as well. And then we also have One Night Only by J.C. Lee. This is the second book in her Hana Trio series, and these are one of the series she's doing with Harlequin. And these ones are all based around people who do are concert musicians. So in the first book, it was a cello player, I believe, and a composer. And this one is a violinist or a viola player. I can't remember which one, but it's one of those two. And I'm very excited for this one. I think this one is also Surprise or Accidental Pregnancy, which isn't a favorite of mine, but I'm very excited to continue this series. And then the final book I have on my list is Golden Hour by Jenny Bunting. This is the third book in her Finch family series. I'm almost caught up. I have the 2.5 novella to read. I just recently read the second book. I'm a big fan of Jenny Bunting. She's a newer contemporary author to me, and I'm very excited. I have not really looked into who this book is going to be, but based on the way the second book ended, I'm guessing it's going to be Jackson's book, who's our broody, secretive, mysterious, oldest brother, so I'm excited to see what happens there. And I think he might be paired with the super sunshiny, young, it's going to be age gap, I'm sure, girl who works at the family's brewery. So we'll see. But yeah, that is all of the books that right now I know of that are releasing in the last 3 months of 2022 that I'm excited to have come out. I'm not the biggest reader of books when they release. There are very few authors I pick up right away, but my reading has definitely slowed down, and I have a lot of book club books and other planned series that I'm currently in the middle of, so I'm not good about picking books up on release date, but we will see what happens. If there's any books that you're excited for, or you're excited for any of these, definitely let me know down below. Otherwise, I will see you all very soon. Please like, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff.